Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, I want to talk about the new Sonlight Kindergarten program, Exploring American History. I'm super excited to dive into this and talk specifically about what it is, why we created it, how it works, and all the details. Today, I have Amy and Judy here with me. I'm Stephanie Rose, Sonlight's community manager. I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about themselves. Amy.
My name is Amy Lykosh, and I am the oldest daughter of John and Sarita, who founded Sonlight 30 years ago. And I am a homeschooling mom of 5 boys. I'm a second generation Sonlighter because I used Sonlight when I was a girl. And I have been involved with Sonlight for about 20 years doing marketing and product development.
Perfect. And specifically, Amy had a tremendous hand in creating this particular piece, which I will show you later, but she is the person who was really working on the product the most and pulling this all together, her and Sarita together, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And Judy, welcome.
Thanks, Steph. So I'm a retired Sonlight homeschool mom. All 3 of my kids have grown, and we now have a second generation of Sonlight homeschool students starting in our family. So I'm pretty excited about that. I am the marketing sales coordinator for Sonlight, so I'm busy putting teams together to send to those conventions that didn't happen this year, but we're confident will happen next year, and just thoroughly enjoy encouraging new homeschool families.
Something else Judy didn't mention about herself is she is also in charge of our catalog. So I know there's so many of you out there just waiting for the new catalog. When it comes out in March, April, Judy's already starting that process months in advance.
Absolutely.
So thank you both so much for joining us. Let's get started with what is the process of adding a new program? What does that look like? And how did you tackle it for this particular product?
Well, it's a great question, and it is not a small undertaking. So first we have to figure out what we want to cover. And then we do a lot of research, both in our own stacks of books. My mother and I both have thousands of books in our libraries. We then go and we search for other titles from different publishers, and then we review them all. So I know in the preschool science, we looked at 160 titles to find the one that we chose. So most options don't take quite that many, thankfully, because we would never finish, but it is a large process of book selection. After we have the book selected, then we schedule them out and we turn that list over to different developers to come up with questions. And then we have the designer who creates the beautiful instructor guide pages. And then there is proofing. And anyway, it's a pretty big undertaking.
For sure. Well, we appreciate you doing that for this new kindergarten program. How will the Kindergartner's Instructor's Guide help Sonlighters as they dive into their first year at Sonlight?
Well, the instructor guide is incredible because it's really all of your lesson plans that you need for the whole year. And so one of the things at Sonlight that we love to do is we love to interweave learning. And so if you're reading about the period of George Washington in one book, then we want to include George Washington in a second book if we can. And it doesn't always work out like that, but it happens more often than you might think that the different topics actually overlap. And so that is one of the beautiful things about following the Sonlight schedule, is that there is all of these layers that tie together, all of these pieces that come together. And so that's the beautiful thing. And then as well as the basic schedule, you also get discussion questions, you get timeline figures so that you can start to put people on the timeline of world history. And there's additional little goodies that you can find in the instructor's guide as well.
Absolutely. So Judy, why don't you talk a little bit, adding an entirely new program sort of pushes everything else. And so why don't you talk about what that looks like now and how we at Sonlight have addressed some of the changes that this would cause. And it's not the first time we've done this. We've done this quite a bit. So Judy, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, in addition to the fact that we have to add more pages to the catalog,
oh yeah,
one of the things that Sonlight is well known for is listening to their customers. And so for years and years, we have heard from our customers that we have a gap. We have a space between our pre-kindergarten program and what is level A. And so a number of our customers said, you know, we would love two things. Number one, we would like something in that space in between the two so that we can spread this out a little more. And we would love for our younger students to learn about American history. We don't want them to wait all the way to third or fourth grade to learn about American history. We would like to do it at a much younger level. And so as we collected all of this feedback over the years, Sarita and Amy and others in the product development team started talking about and considering, could we make this happen? Does it make sense to make this happen? And the culmination of that is absolutely it did. But the other thing that it did that was really nice was it allowed us to address the concern that some of our customers have shared with us, that Sonlight is so robust that perhaps we could spread it out some and move our levels up. And so by adding a level between our pre-kindergarten and our level A program, now we're able to do that. Now we're able to move all those other levels up a year or a range of ages 1 year higher. And so that does a number of things. Primarily, it allows some flexibility, some breathing room, the ability to not have to always be working at the top of the level. It also makes it easier to combine students who would benefit from sharing some of those couch subjects, those literature-based subjects together. And so it did. It caused all of our levels to move up. So it meant that we changed grade ranges and age ranges on our website. We updated them in our catalogs. And in all of our other marketing materials to demonstrate that we now have this wonderful new program that fills that gap.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about the history spine. So we have these two new books, and I wanted to just point out, she didn't put in there that she was also an author, but she is. Anyway, Amy, talk a little bit about these history spines, why you created them, what they are. I'll flip through and show if you'd like. But yeah, talk a little bit about these new ones.
So one of the reasons why it took so long for us at Sonlight to be able to produce an American history program for young people is it was impossible for us to find a spine or a book that would run through the whole year that we liked. The reality is there is a lot of picture books that are charming and wonderful from that age range, but to do a different picture book every day for a year would be ridiculously expensive. And so, and then the books that we would find in different catalogs, either the text was a little bit too lengthy or the subject matter just wasn't exactly what we wanted, or there's too much passive voice, whatever, there were issues. And so as I was thinking about this, I realized the special thing about early elementary is that they do have picture books available. And so every one of these books, or I should say, the two books have 60 short biographies between the two of them. There's 30 short biographies in each of them. And each of those biographies has at least one picture book, sometimes 4 or 5 or 6, connected with that biography. And so what's fun in my mind about this program is that you can use these spines just by themselves. But if there's a character that catches your attention, you can go and find out more based on the recommendation at the end of each chapter. And so in some ways, it's the best of both worlds. It's affordable, which is very nice for all of us, but it also allows you to pursue knowledge in the direction that is specific to you. So part of the other thing I wanted to say about these books is I really wanted it to be as representational as I could make it. So it does include the famous figures. It includes all 4 of the people who are on Mount Rushmore. It includes the Statue of Liberty. It includes the battle where the Star-Spangled Banner was first written. You know, it includes the iconic events from American history, but it also includes a lot of women. It also includes a lot of ethnic peoples from various types. So there's Native Americans, there's African Americans. Anyway, there's a whole lot. There's a whole list somewhere. I forgot what it is, but it's there.
There's
And
also not just people, right? There's
yeah.
sort of events.
Oh yes. So that's why it's not just heroes, it's heroes and happenings, because there's a great story about a dog. There is stories about uh, the other thing, there's stories about other types of animals, I suppose, trees also. But the other thing that is for me really fun is it tends to be, the first book I would say is more the iconic people, but then in the second half, in the second volume, there's probably people who are a little bit less familiar, but the reason I chose those people is because I wanted representations of some of the harder events of world history or American history, like World War I and World War II. But I really didn't want to get into trench warfare. That's pretty heavy for a kindergartner, quite frankly. And so instead, I talk about Horace Pippin, who is a painter who did go to World War I, was injured in World War I, but then he created beautiful art as a result. And so as you go through, especially the second book, you'll find that the major events are covered, but they aren't traumatic. And so it's really a way of saying, here are some hooks for you to put in your children's brains so that when it's time later for them to learn more about these events, the hooks are there and you can start hanging more information on them.
I love this. Every time I flip through it, I get a little bit excited. And I don't have a kindergartner. I want to just give it to my fourth grader and be like, here, I think this is beneficial to you. I also wanted to mention that in the back of each of these books, not only is there additional, if you want to learn specifically about each person or event, there's little tidbits in each chapter, but there's also additional resources listed in the back of the book, and that is not small. So if you have something that your child gets excited about or wants to learn more, you can switch back to the back of the book and learn about all different kinds of things. So this is super great work, Amy.
Oh, thank you.
Great. I think that this is exciting. Like Amy said, having a ton of picture books is next to impossible and very pricey, but having everything all together in these two books, and they are picture books. They're gentle. You can read them to your children and they can look at the beautiful illustrations. So it's great. Great addition to the Sonlight library.
And actually, you don't have to be a kindergartner to enjoy them. I have seen photos of PhD students reading them and parents and older children who are like, I'm going to go and sneak this. So you could buy it no matter what your age is.
I wanted to say, like, for a fourth grader, I mean, they would read this to themselves and enjoy it. So anyway, I'm super excited about these books. If you are at all interested in American history, I suggest grabbing some for your shelf. So let's talk a little bit about what you're most excited about for this program. And
well, I am really excited about just having a whole new program with all new adorable books to read. So I have a 6-year-old and we have been delaying school a little bit until we could get to this because I knew it was coming, you know. So now that it's here, it is so fun to read through all of the new read alouds and all of the beautiful stories and meet all the new characters. And so that has been just an absolute delight.
I am super excited for the science. I have a science background in my education, so science has always been a favorite subject for me, and it's exciting to see a brand new science program and actually the start of redoing a lot of Sonlight science. So it's kind of exciting to see that all begin to launch and start with this kindergarten science.
absolutely, absolutely. There's a science video that I will link down below so you can watch that where we dive into the science because that is just as exciting. So let's talk, now that this has been in the market for a few months, what are we hearing? Do we have any feedback from customers? Is there anyone who might be saying some stuff about this? I think as we go in and launch a product, we're excited, and so it's always nice to hear customer feedback. What are you hearing?
we're hearing a lot of people saying, doggone it, I don't have a kindergartner anymore, because they have seen the list of new titles and they've seen little snippets from Heroes and Happenings. And I'm sitting over here thinking, yes, but we're starting a second generation of Sunlighters, and I can't wait to do this with my grandson. So yeah, I think I'm seeing a lot of people saying, I wish I had another child that I could take through this program.
I think there's just a lot of people, I'm hearing people get super excited who might have an older child also doing American history. Maybe that older child is in, D or E. And so to be able to combine the two and let everyone sort of learn American history together at the same time is super exciting for some of those veteran homeschoolers, if you will.
Yeah.
Anyway. Amy, do you have any, I heard you say that you've seen pictures of PhDs reading this.
Oh, it is true. Yes. I'm trying to think of, probably the thing for me that was the most honoring, that I was just, made me so happy, was a blog that talked about how it was something like finally a truly multicultural American history program for kindergartners. I think in the environment that we have today, where as a desire of my heart would be to have social righteousness just spread out and a celebration of all people and cultures, it made me really happy that the reviewer was able to see that that is part of my goal in writing these books. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you guys so much for joining me and talking all about exploring American history, the new Sonlight or kindergarten program. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.